If you're at university or school, you know how important writing is to your academic progress. Once you graduate, you'll learn that the workplace requires standard English, the language of prestige and power in much of the world. We acknowledge the tremendous pressure that many of the students enrolled in this MOOC are under to write as well as those whose first language is English. It's clear that English is the world's lingua franca. It is used all over the planet. You need to use standard English in academic, corporate and government communication. Many employers react strongly against non-standard English because they believe that errors inspire undesirable reactions in readers and erode the credibility of the organisation. You'll exponentially enhance your employment prospects if you write well. English has no protector of language, such as the 400-year-old body of revered experts who protect the French language. So, standard English is the set of standards that professional experts have agreed upon, while acknowledging how language constantly changes. The rules for standard English are defined by how educated people use it. There are two tribes of grammarians that are known as descriptivists and prescriptivists. Descriptivists describe how language is used and how it changes. Prescriptivists prescribe how language ought to be used. Professor Geoffrey Pullum, a world authority on grammar as the co-author of the Cambridge Grammar of the English Language, who blogs regularly on Lingua Franca on the Chronicle of Higher Education site, resists this dichotomy. He says that grammarians who study the language are not all bow-tie-wearing martinets, nor are they flaming liberals who think that everything should be allowed, that anything goes. He stands on the sensible middle ground, where the rules of standard English are based on the way that expert native speakers use the language. And so do we. In this MOOC, we aim to give you good grammatical guidance, because in any formal written context, only standard English is regarded as acceptable and correct. Language scholars have argued that humans find meaning in the world by exploring it through their own language. When people write about something, they understand and learn it better. It's called the writing, thinking, learning connection, and you should exploit it. Many creative writers testify that they don't know what they're thinking until they start writing about it. This is what the novelist E.M. Forster had to say. How do I know what I think until I've seen what I've said? Many professionals keep a writing journal. In her Christmas Day message in 2013, even Queen Elizabeth of England advocated keeping a journal. Keeping a journal is valuable for you as student writers because it will enhance your writing, thinking, learning processes. We'd like you to create and maintain a writing journal that will allow you to practice writing, to experiment with different styles, and to develop a source book of materials from which you can extract material to share with others as blog posts for your writing assignments. A double entry journal, that is, a journal in which you reflect upon what you have written previously, is particularly valuable. We'd like you to keep a journal as you progress through this MOOC, and you may well keep it going after the MOOC has finished. For week 2, we want you to think about your writing process and prepare a 300-word blog post to submit for your first writing assignment. In what ways is writing like running or cooking or dancing or boxing or painting or any other activity that you can think of? Jot down some points, then write a few sentences describing your process. Haruki Murakami has written about writing and running. Neil Gaiman has written about how writing is like cooking. You might like to Google them to see what they have to say. Ferris Jabbar has a wonderful essay in The New Yorker about why walking helps us think. In an essay, Cooking Dumb, Eating Dumb, Nahum Waxman, who has a fabulous cookbook shop on the Upper East Side of Manhattan called Kitchen Arts and Letters, says that he dreads being asked by his customers if the recipes in a book work. He tells them that it is they who must work. He says that his customers must think, must apply their intelligence and judgment to ideas and to the materials that will be turned into a dish. He could well be talking about writing when he goes on to say that they need to bring their own good sense to cooking, their ability to understand variability in ingredients, to recognise error in a written text, to acknowledge their own tastes and preferences, to not let themselves be intimidated by the food arbiters into dreary cooking by numbers. An alternative blog post could describe your response to something that you learn in week 1 of this MOOC that made you change your way of writing, thinking, learning. If you watch Professor D'Agostino's video presentation, you might like to comment on what you've learned from his powerfully evocative talk. Fans of Bob Dylan will particularly love it. We'll also ask you to contribute a blog post in weeks 4, 6 and 8. The final one in week 8 will reflect on your earlier posts, and this is where your double entry journal could come in handy. Here are the criteria to aim for when writing blog posts and for judging the quality of other students' blog posts. Content that's interesting, engaging and appropriate for readers. Be aware of cultural differences. Be careful about using humour because it may offend readers who don't share your sense of humour. Content that speculates, poses problems, raises questions, challenges, informs, and that's based on research that's authentic, credible and authoritative. Structure that's logical, coherent, cohesive and focused. Style that's energetic, compelling and concise. And of course, correct grammar and punctuation. As guidance, we've posted in our course resources a couple of exemplars of blog posts written by students in the on-campus grammar class here at the University of Queensland. We'll also choose a few early posts that students in this MOOC write and post. We'll comment on and grade them as guidance for self and peer assessing and post these markups on the discussion board as soon as possible after the posts are due. You'll find all of the assessment details, including details of the rubric, in your course assessment folder. So far, we've discussed the importance of Standard English and introduced you to your first writing assignment. Now we'll move on to show you how to create credibility for your writing at the word level.